What is up? Josh Hoover, number 10, TCU represent. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I know you're all about football, and that's what we're going to talk about a lot today. But I do want to have one fill in the blank for you. So when Josh is not on the football field, he loves doing blank.
I love being outside, whether it's hunting, fishing, working cows, or horseback, whatever. I like doing that kind of stuff. So I like to be outside. So that's kind of what I'm always doing.
Okay, you hunting, fishing, and then you got to the cows and then the the horses. So give me more on that.
Oh, well, a buddy of mine from high school, we kind of started doing some cow deals not too long ago. So we've had that going, and then just kind of trading some cows around. And then I keep a horse in Fort Worth, and a couple years ago started roping a little bit. But just do some of that, and then like to hunt and just kind of hang out. So.
That's pretty amazing. I live in Boston, so we don't have a lot of cows up here near where I am. But can you just give me a little bit more about maybe what that looked like over the summer for you?
Well, I had some calves in, so a calf is basically a baby cow. So just they they were a little bit light, so they're kind of vulnerable to sickness and stuff. So pretty much every day doctoring stuff, giving them shots and all that, just trying to keep them alive. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. That's kind of what I was doing this summer when I wasn't doing football stuff.
Wow, well, that's a really incredible thing, and just to take care of an animal in that way is pretty cool and serious too. I bet that's not something that you can just throw together. Have you been doing that a long time?
Oh, not really. Not too long. I just kind of started getting into all that not too long ago. So.
All right. Well, there you go. If you didn't know it, now you know it about Josh. That's pretty incredible and something you can probably do for the rest of your life. So I love it. But we'll talk TCU football because I know that's what you got going on right now. So what is something that maybe even the biggest TCU football fan doesn't know about your team?
I think that we are just super mature. We've got an older group of guys that are. There's a lot of guys who have been here a while and they're just mature and they just do a great job of leading and not only on the field but off the field. And we've got a Bible study going that player led that we do on Mondays, and so just some of that stuff people don't really ever hear about. But there's definitely a lot of cool things going on behind the scenes at TCU.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that bleeds into just what you guys do on the field, right? And how you take care of each other as teammates and in the locker room. But I do want to talk about a hugely anticipated game that you guys got the big W against Bill Belichick and the UNC Tar Heels, win on the road. How did it feel to start the season out with that win?
Oh, it's great. Anytime you can start off the year with a win, it's awesome. Great feeling, and there's a lot to learn from that game. There's a lot of things we need to get better at, but it's always good to learn from a win instead of a loss. So it's definitely a great way to start. I'm proud of our guys for just being focused and showing up, being ready to play. Missed all the distractions and all the buzz and the media and all that stuff. So it's just kind of a testimony to our guys and our players and coaches and just the hard work they put in.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of noise, right? Like you just think about the pregame hype that there were. I mean, star-studded game. Even for you guys too. I saw Andy Dalton was there with his family, which is so cool. But your family was also there. I saw the Hoover family got to make it to game day. So what are they like on game day? I know you're on the field, so you're probably not with them, but you definitely know what your family's like. Are they quiet? Are they loud? Are they super nervous?
Yeah, my mom. I don't know. I think, like you said, I've never really been around them a whole lot, but what I've heard is that my parents get a little bit nervous, I think. So maybe they're not as talkative as normal, probably. They're probably a little bit nervous, which I get it. I get nervous too. I have butterflies and all that, so it kind of goes for everybody. But no, they're probably a little bit amped up and just ready, excited for me. And, they've been awesome. They support me in everything I do. They fly to all the games and come and see me play and travel, and my dad comes and watches practice all the time. He just loves everything. So I'm super blessed to have a family that supports me like the way they do, and it means a lot to me. My parents lead a prayer circle basically before every game with all the parents, and I think there was like 250 people there before the North Carolina game. So
Hey, there you go.
it's cool to see them just making an impact too on parents and just other people during the games and all that.
Wow, that's a lot of people for a prayer circle at an away game.
Yeah, I saw a video. My mom was like yelling, and I'm like, "Why is she yelling?" And they told me there were 200 people there. I was like, "Well, that makes sense."
Well, hey, tell your mom and dad to keep doing it, okay? Because it's going well, and what a cool way to just like rally like your family and friends and fans before the game. I think that's so special because it can kind of mimic too what you guys are doing on the field. But you live close to school and you get to go to school close to home, and I actually got to go to Boston College, which is like 20 minutes away from where my family lived. And it was so special for me because my parents were able to come to so many games and just for me to go home. So what's it been like getting to go to school close to home?
It's been good. It's definitely nice. I love being able to go home in the off season and see my parents or go to church with them or hang out and eat dinner. Um, Earlier on in college, I really took advantage of the laundry thing. I would go home and get some laundry done. So it's awesome, but I love being close, love being able to play where all of my hometown friends can come and keep up and come and watch. And, just people that I grew up around, it's close. So it means a lot to have everybody there and to support me and just be so close to home.
It's awesome. And just the first game of the season, I know it's always exciting, but there's always that like, oh, I got to break the ice. I got to have that first player. Something's got to happen. For you, what are some things that you do to get your mind right on game day before that first snap?
Yeah, I listen to some music. I pray, in the locker room, listen to music, just kind of try to chill. Listen to, there's a couple country songs I listen to, just kind of remind me of, I don't know, just songs that I remember hearing as a kid. Just kind of reminds me of my family and just the journey and how far I've been. So there's a couple songs I like to listen to that you feel like just kind of calms me down and grounds me before I go play.
Yeah, that's important. I like that you said just songs that remind you of like home and your family. That's like super awesome, and I think that's what helps probably make a big stadium with lights and so many things that you're thinking about during the game just ground you. But what would your offense say you're like in the huddle after you've gotten your mind right? What would your offense say you're like in the huddle?
Probably pretty urgent. I don't. Yeah, I feel like I kind of flip a switch. I feel like I'm kind of a laid back guy when I'm not playing, but out there I kind of get a little bit more urgent and definitely a little bit more sting to me, I guess you could say. So yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a difference there in the huddle, and I try to get in and out of the huddle and just do a good job communicating. And I've been told that um, I'm I'm pretty direct, and I'll sometimes have to go back and apologize for being a little too direct to people, but that's kind of how I am.
It's your job to take command of the huddle, so you don't need to apologize for it. But definitely a different Josh than the Josh that is like nursing the calf, right?
Yeah, yeah. Different time for sure.
I saw a lot of athletes just even last year and in the start of this year wear these Jesus One shirts walking into game day. And you and a couple other teammates wore them before the UNC game. So what's the story behind wearing those shirts?
Yeah, so I'm part of the FCA here at TCU, and so that's something that Chauncey Franks, who runs our FCA, he had kind of come up with that, or not come up with it, but we kind of brought that along for TCU, and his message to us was, Jesus has already won the battle. He's already died on the cross and forgiven us of our sins, and he's given us an opportunity to have eternal life with him. And so when you play from that perspective, you're free. You're able to be free and just have freedom and go play and have fun and understand that the battle's already been won. And so that's kind of the backstory, or at least the way I think about it, and what that shirt represents and what that shirt means.
You mentioned FCA, and I know that is an awesome group that they have so many FCAs around the country. But what does FCA at TCU mean to you?
It means a lot. It's just another community. It's just people that are like-minded, similar to me, that are athletes and kind of think the same way off the field. Just all come together and have community and learn and grow. And we have such a great staff. I mean, we have 4 or 5 people that really pour into us and teach. And every single week we do it, and we go to their houses and we have Bible studies and we do all this stuff. And it's a really special and neat deal. And I'm super thankful for all of them and the entire staff and all the the kids that come to FCA. It's just been super special to me, and I feel like I've learned and grown so much. You feel like you go from high school to college, and as a kid, I grew up in a Christian home, and so it was always, as a kid, you're going to church, but you're with your family, and your mom and dad are saying, "All right, we're going to church this morning," and so when you go to college, it has to become your own. And I feel like when I went to college, FCA played a pivotal part in me making my faith my own and making it a priority for myself and not just my parents saying, "Hey, you need to do this or you need to do that." So it's made a huge impact on my life.
And you're close to home when you're saying that too, right? Like you really are alone when you go to college, like regardless of how close you are to your family, and you gotta figure that out for yourself. Especially, I think, just with the intensity of college sports, like you're thrown to the fire. It's like, okay, thanks God. Like now you're really putting it up to me, but there's so many things that you could be doing with your some of your free time. And so thank you for coming on the What's Up podcast, or some of it. But I know that even just going to an FCA meeting is like another added thing on your schedule. So maybe what's some encouragement or something special that you feel like you go and you take that time out of your crazy schedule to invest in doing community with others, right? Because you could go do your quiet time, you can go to church, and you could, do stuff on your own, but like we're called to do life with other believers. So, what encouragement maybe would you give someone who might tend to just kind of drift off on their own?
Well, I can just tell you from my experience, I feel like, I don't know, whenever I'm around other Christians, I feel like the standard is almost, the bar is raised, right? There's almost like this competitive nature in us that's like, we're not trying to keep up with the Jones or keep up with whatever. We're all sinners and we all fall short of glory of God. But it's almost like you have other people that are holding you accountable in your life, and there's a structure, and there's people to support you, and that's what, like you said, that's what God calls us to do, is to be in community with other believers. And so I think you just have to make that a priority. I mean, it's just like anything else. You can choose to eat dinner, or you can choose to go to FCA. I mean, you have all these choices in life, and so the argument that, oh, maybe I don't have time, maybe I would say that you don't have your priorities straight. So it's all about aligning your priorities with God, and having Him first on that list. And it's not always easy to do. It's easy to get distracted, and I know for me, there's times I get distracted, and I'm, instead of having my quiet time, watching film or doing something else, and I'm just reminded sometimes to slow down and just be present in the moment, and just take a second with God and just pray and ask God, what He wants me to do, what He wants from me, and what I can do to impact other people. And so I think it's just all about your priorities and just slowing down sometimes.
That's cool. And I'm sure they give you food too at FCA. Is that right? Snacks,
They
something?
do. They do sometimes. Yeah.
Good. So you don't have to choose over dinner. You'll probably get
You
something
can
if
eat
you
there
go.
too. That's right. Exactly.
Good. That's good. Well, I know you still have a lot of TCU football ahead of you, but has there been a standout memory or something that is just a core moment that will always stick with you from your time playing football there?
Yeah, I think my first start against BYU, it was just, I'll always remember that day. I mean, as a kid, you grow up and you just want to play college sports, and wanted to play quarterback. And so I think that I got to college and I wasn't a big time recruit. And so I was like the fourth guy, and I was on the scout team, and I was never, I don't think people really thought much of me when I got there. And so for me, it was just a pretty cool moment to say that, hey, I've made it to the point to where I can start a game and go play. And it seemed like it was so far off when I first got there, and it was such a distant thing, and I feel like I had to work, and it was going to take me forever to get there. And it just kind of worked out that God allowed that to happen a lot sooner than I was expecting, and I was certainly ready for it and certainly appreciative, and I took advantage of the opportunity that God gave me. And so I'll always remember that day, my first start against BYU, and we won 44-11, and had a pretty good day, so it was fun.
Shoot. Well, you crushed them. That's pretty similar to the UNC score. I think it was, I wrote it down as 48-14. So there you go. Full circle moment. I love that. That is so cool. And just hearing your story about like scout team and fourth string, and probably even, harder things too than just, the surface level of that. Did someone say something to you, or did you read something, or was there a phrase that really you were coming back to and that got you through just the grind of that season of your career?
I think I just always believed that I was going to be the guy. I don't really know why or where that came from. I just remember thinking like I never really thought any different. Never thought to myself, oh, what if I'm not the starter someday? I just always assumed I was going to be the starter, and so I think that was. I don't know where that came from. I think my parents have always, spoke life into me ever since I've been a little kid. I've heard nothing but um, encouraging and great things, and you're going to do this in life, and you're going to be great, and you're going to impact God's kingdom, and you're going to do this. And I think just the way that my family has raised us, just to be positive and to expect great things from yourself and other people, I think that's just kind of where that mentality came from. And so I knew I had a lot of work to do. It wasn't going to be handed to me. But I just had kind of a sense that I was going to be the starting quarterback here one day, and I believed it, and it happened.
Let's go. That's awesome. And I think that's great for people to hear just because it's a simple answer, right? You said like I just didn't think otherwise. But I do think if you don't have that self-belief, you're not going to play at the highest level. Like you're
Yeah.
not, right? You're not even going to get recruited if you don't believe that you can play there. So that I think that's great. And fans are going to see you on the field and on social media and on TV, but they don't see those 5 a.m. workouts. They don't see the off-season training. They don't see even just the hardships of competing and what it takes to become the starting quarterback at a school like TCU. So it's not all rainbows and sunshines. But what's been maybe just kind of a fun question? What's been one of the hardest off-season workouts that you have to do as a TCU football player?
Um, I'm not even going to go to off season. I'm going to go to the hardest workout I've done at TCU, which I guess it was the off season because we were done playing. But my first year I started playing, we went 5-7, lost to OU like 67-59, did not make a bowl game, right? So we didn't play in December, but we still had 2 weeks of school left. So the coaches, we didn't make a bowl game, so they were going to kind of get their point across about, next time we'll make a bowl game and make sure we're have a successful season. So we lined up one morning, and there's a bunch of sleds out on the sideline with a bunch of weight on them, and we did like sled sprints across the field, and we did like 6 of them. Down and back was one, and I remember I got to
Just you,
6.
like not a relay, like just one
No, yeah,
person.
no, just you, and it's down back, and then the next group would go, and then down back, and it's like a heavy sled. And I remember I got to number 6, and it was like one of those things where I could barely even like stand. Like I was like, your legs are just gone, and they're half the teams like on the ground, like crawling. There's guys throwing up everywhere, and their sleds have throw up all over. I mean, it was just a bad deal. So that was definitely a vivid memory I have. Probably the toughest workout I've done, and it definitely, showed us that we don't want to not miss a bowl game again, and we didn't. So
Hey, it
that's
worked.
yeah, I
Good.
guess we learned the hard way.
That's hilarious. I mean, I remember doing sled pushes at like 6 a.m. on the turf at Boston College, and it rained. So, like, the turf was wet. So, when you pushed it, like, all the turf was just spiking up in your eyes. And so, I
Oh,
remember, like, doing it, like, kind of blind. It's terrible. It's like, I still think about it today. Whenever I see sleds, I'm like, oh, yeah, no, never going near that thing again.
that's funny. Yeah, no, the turf when it gets in your eye, it's a bad deal.
Bad deal. Yeah, you don't want that. Well, I think that's so funny and, as great as those are to look back on, it's important, right? Like those workouts do help you physically, but there's also a challenge I think with college sports that is so mental. And even like if you're a believer, it's also that spiritual sense of like wrestling with God when things aren't going your way. And so maybe I know your time at TCU isn't over, but just kind of reflecting on your career so far, what's been one of the harder things that you've had to overcome during your TCU career?
I think I talked about the year we went 5-7. I came in and started. That was 2023. I came in and started the last 6 games, and I played in the 5th game. Our other starter got hurt, but I think that year, early on in that season, those first 5 games where I wasn't the starter, it was kind of tough. I thought I was gonna have an opportunity to compete for the job, and I really didn't. They kind of, had their mind made up that he was going to be the guy, and I feel like I had a great fall camp and just didn't really get an opportunity, and that was kind of frustrating. But I remember, them playing the other guy, and I was the backup, and we were doing okay, and we were doing fine. And I remember my dad talking to me and saying, hey, you're gonna and my dad, he's giving me permission to say this, but he said to me, he goes, Well, if nothing changes, you're probably gonna have to, start looking around, find a place to transfer. And I said, Dad, I said, don't call me ever again if you're gonna talk to me about transfer. And I said, I'm not gonna transfer. If you keep talking about me transferring, I'm not gonna be ready when the time comes for me to be the starter, or if I get an opportunity. And then I'm gonna miss the opportunity and not take advantage of it. And I was like, so I don't want you to say another word about me transfer. I'm gonna be the starter here. And sure enough, the next week I went in and talked to our offensive coordinator, and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna go with the other guy," and I was like, "Okay, I understand, but whenever you're ready, I'll be your guy and we'll win games." And the starter ended up getting hurt that week. Unfortunately, you never want that to happen. You never want that to be the reason you play. But I got an opportunity and went in and took advantage of it, and I've started every game since. So it's been good.
Wow. That's a story.
My dad said he's like that's the story that humbles me. I was like my son humbled me, but uh, my dad, I mean, he was just looking out for me, and he was just wanting the best for me. And it's hard, sometimes as a parent. I know from them talking about it. I don't know obviously, but him just saying that you want the best for your kids and you want to fix their problems for them. And sometimes I think it's best just to let them figure it out and have to suffer a little bit and learn the hard way. And that's kind of what I didn't suffer, but I had to wait my turn.
Yeah, wow. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. I think, and too, like your dad wants the best for you, right? Like he wants
Right.
you to have a Tom Brady college football experience, not Tom Brady's college football experience, but Tom Brady success,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's very different, okay? And so I love that. And I think it's really hard. Like college athletics is so difficult, especially with transfer portal. And it's like, do you grind it out? Do you stay loyal? Do you go? Because sometimes that is the better move, right? To go and not to wait it out in your situation. And maybe that's what the Lord has for you. But I do think it's cool that, God filled you with that spirit of, hey, I'm just going to put my head down and grind and like wait for my turn. And so I think that's a really interesting and cool story just to hear about the dialogue too that you were able to have with your dad, and just the relationship there is really special. But just in that waiting time, because I know there are so many athletes that are probably in that wrestle of like, do I leave, do I stay, right? Just in the landscape of college sports, but even the wrestle of that, but even just the grind of waiting your turn. What did you do like outside of the football facility in order to really keep yourself afloat and still have that joy for football?
Well, this isn't gonna be probably the answer you want, but I think I was just obsessed with trying to get better. It was like an addiction for me. I wanted to be as ready as I could be each and every week. I literally thought every week was going to be my week. I was like, I'm going to do everything I can to be ready this week. If they decide to put me in, I'm going to be ready, and I'm never going to come out again. That was my mentality. And so, I think that I was just kind of addicted to progress and addicted to trying to get better each and every day. And I still feel like I am that way. But it's hard to answer that question because I didn't really have a whole lot that I was doing outside of football other than just going to class and being a normal college student. But I felt like I was pretty focused on just controlling what I can control and doing what I could do to do my part and be ready for the team. And then also for people in situations where you're kind of stuck. I mean, it's like you have to think about the other things. It's not just about football. It's about, are you going to graduate? Are you around the right people? Are you making an impact on people for the Lord? Because that's the most important thing, is what kind of impact are you making on people? And so I think there's a lot of things to consider, and it's never easy. Definitely something to pray about and ask God to lead you in a certain direction. But I think that in times of controversy, you just pray and seek God's face, and He'll direct you left or right.
That's awesome. I actually think that's the perfect answer for what you can do in a season of waiting, because you're not letting your talent go to waste by your frustration, right? And you're
Right.
saying, God, you've gifted me with this talent. You have clearly put this desire on my heart that I know I'm going to be the starting quarterback at TCU, right? Like you
Right.
clearly has filled you with that. And so you steward that well, and like you went for it, and you didn't let that time go to waste. So I love that. I think that's incredible advice that you can take in your football experience, in your sport experience, or anything else. But Josh, seriously, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm so excited to point Sports Spectrum listeners to you, and we're gonna wear purple. We're gonna cheer you on this season, and yeah, looking forward to the rest of your season this year.
Well, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It was great.